Welcome to the Rent Success podcast, the only podcast entirely dedicated to helping you achieve rent-to-rent success. We talk about the ethical way to get you started in property without buying it. This is our place to inspire each other to believe bigger, to be bolder, and to be game changers for good. Property investors and sisters Stephanie and Nicky Taylor are your guides on this exciting ride. Let's start up the engines and get ready to fly. Hello. It's Stephanie here, and welcome to episode 23 of Ask the Angels, where we answer your rent-to-rent questions. If you'd like to have your question answered here, go to rentsuccess.com/ask, ASK, and record your question there for me to answer here for you. And today we have a question from Raqib about deposits. And this is Raqib's question. When taking deposits, do you store them in your business bank account or in a government scheme? So let me explain, before I go into our answer, a little more about the context here and what the law says. So when tenants pay deposits to you, they must be protected by a government-approved tenancy deposit scheme. And in England and Wales, there are three. There's the Deposit Protection Service, there's My Deposit, and there's the Tenancy Deposit Scheme. In Scotland, it's the Lettings Protection Service Scotland, Safe Deposits Scotland, and My Deposits Scotland. And then Northern Ireland have their own three as well. It's Tenancy Deposit Scheme Northern Ireland, My Deposits NI, and the Letting Protection Service NI. So your obligations as a rent-to-rent business, landlord or letting agent are that you have a legal obligation to register deposits with a government scheme within 30 days of receiving them. And you also have an legal obligation to give tenants the prescribed information about the deposit. Now, if you fail to protect a deposit or deliver the prescribed information, then you can be fined up to 3 times the monthly rent. So it is important to get this right. And there are 2 ways that you can protect deposits in a government scheme. One is custodial and the other is insured. I'm just going to go into what those are now, and this is going to help us as we move towards answering Raqib's question. So the custodial scheme, this is where you transfer the money from that it's been paid into your bank account by the tenant, you transfer the funds into the custodial scheme. And the deposit is held in the scheme bank account and not your bank account. You can even have your tenants pay the funds directly into the deposit bank account, the scheme's bank account. Now, using the custodial service from any of the government's deposit schemes is a free service. You do not have to pay for the deposit funds to be held by the scheme. So the second service we talked about is the insured service. This is where you hold the deposit funds. So if somebody's paid you £500, £800, whatever whatever the deposit is, you holding those funds in your own bank account. And then you insure the funds by paying a fee to the deposit scheme you're using. However, whereas previously you could have kept the funds in your own business bank account, now you are required by law to hold the funds in a client money bank account. Now, this is because some unscrupulous agents, landlords, were either going out of business and taking people's deposits with them. And so now every deposit must be protected. It's either got to be in a custodial scheme where the money is actually with the deposit protection service, the deposit protection scheme. or it's in an insured fund where the money is held by you, but you've paid for the insurance that if you run off with the money, that the deposit scheme will pay the tenant back. So now that you understand all of the basics, back to Raqib's question, we hold our deposits in a custodial scheme. So they're not in our bank account, they are in the government scheme bank account. This is a free service. The only drawback is with the government schemes is they do, or it is felt by landlords that they do have a tendency to side with tenants when there are disputes. But we've set up our check-in and check-out process in a way where we don't have deposit disputes. So for us, the custodial scheme works really well. It's a free service. The funds are held by then. At the end of the tenancy, the tenants go back to the deposit service to get their deposits back, and that just works well for us. But you can use the insured scheme, but then to actually have to set up client money bank account and client money protection processes, to us, we just feel it's not worth it. Why would you do that? Why would you pay a fee to insure the deposits when there's an alternative free service, and also go through the additional administration for the client money bank account? I'll talk about client money protection in another episode. Usually a rent-to-rent business doesn't need to have a client money protection bank account because we don't hold client funds. But if you decide that you do want to hold the deposit fund, you will need that client money bank account. So in summary, we choose to use the custodial scheme, which is free. You could use the insured scheme, but you would need to pay, as I say, to protect it, and you would need to have that client money bank account to protect those funds. It just makes sense to use a custodial scheme and save the money and save the hassle. If you're in the Rent to Rent Kickstarter program with us, you will also have the full step-by-step process for tenant onboarding quickly and legally. In Onboard Great Tenants in M6.4, you'll see everything to do with tenant referencing, tenant deposits, tenant contracts, inventory, and the check-ins which prevent deposit disputes, but quick and easy to do, not like the ones we used to do when we first started. So thanks so much for asking your question, Raqib. And if you're listening and you'd like to find out more about the ethical way to make money from properties you don't own, get our free Rent to Rent Success Guide and Masterclass. It's a booklet and a 90-minute training video giving you the full overview to how Rent to Rent works, so you can see whether it's right for you. That's all for now. I will see you next time. Have an amazing week.
Thank you so much for being with me here today. If you would like more, we've written the #1 best-selling book on Rent to Rent. You can find it at renttoRentSuccess.com/book. Reviewers on Amazon have described it as the best Rent to Rent HMO book, and also as a definitive reference guide and inspirational. Take your next step today and buy the book. You can find it at renttoRentSuccess.com/book. And I'll see you again next time. Until then, remember, believe bigger, be bolder, be a game changer.